by either factoring or using the quadratic formula. Okay, what else are you going to need to know? You're going to need to know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide polynomial fractions. Where they may just look like this and you got to put them together, or they may be in the form of an equation and you've got to figure out how to solve the equation. First thing you got to do is make sure that your negative here is taken care of. So we say plus negative 3. If we are adding two fractions, forget that it has all kinds of stuff in it. What do you need?
Common denominator.
Common denominator. X squared minus 4 can be broken down.
X plus 2, X minus 2.
And so you need to do that. Exactly. Your common denominator, therefore, is every term that appears here, which would be x plus 2, x minus 2. And then we start transforming. Now look, our original, and I'll write it in blue so that you can see where it comes from. Our original, blah, blah, can't talk. Original numerators were simply x and minus 3. In this first fraction, I only had x plus 2. What is added or extra down here? So that means we need to multiply this by x minus 2. In this fraction, I had both of them, so I don't need to do a thing. Now, you cannot just cancel, well, that one wouldn't anyway, x minus 2 and x minus 2, because it's this whole thing divided by that. So what do? We distribute and combine.
So you multiply it by x plus 2.
Someone tell me that's right.
Oh, wait.
Has the answer been sound?
So Miss Salmon, in that case, did it really matter that you changed the common like plus?
No, because you didn't have to distribute anything. But if you just get in the habit of doing the same thing every time, it'll help you avoid that error. Okay, now, just in case we might be able to cancel something, if this can be factored, you need to factor it. It can be factored,
3
but
it doesn't cancel anything.
it doesn't cancel anything. But just to make sure that you know for sure, you need to go ahead and do it. And then anytime we have x's in the denominator of the fraction, we need to restrict them.
Negative 2 plus
Just put x plus or minus 2.
X cannot equal positive or negative 2 because it would cause you to have an undefined fraction.
Easy one.
Okay, now look, in this problem,
So,
we simply had two fractions that we were putting together. Okay? If I say, here's half of a hamburger and 2/3 of milkshake, is there any way you can magically change that into a whole hamburger and a whole milkshake? No. You have what you have. Okay? Now, the difference between that and this is that this is an equation. And I want you to understand why we can do what we can do with equations. All right? So watch this. I went too fast, too far, too fast.
we're in.
Let's use a very simple equation. Okay,
Wait, we're not doing the other one?
and just watch. I'm going to show you why we do what we do. Okay? Because this morning everybody wanted to know why you're doing it different. Because we can. All right. An equation is a relationship between things. And if we take those things and increase them both by the same multiple, our ultimate solution is still the same. For instance, in this equation, what is x equal to?
4.
Okay. If I take both sides of this equation and increase it by, say, a multiple of 6, that means I'm going to multiply this, this, and this all by 6. Did it change the answer for x?
Still equals 4.
It's still 4.
3, 4, yeah.
Let's say I take the original equation and I divide everything by 2.
3, 3, 15.
It's still 4. Okay? So the reason we can take this equation and get rid of the denominators, get rid of the fractions, is because it's an equation. And really what we're doing is we're just expressing it in higher terms. Like taking 1/2 and expressing it as 5/10. You're just taking it and expressing it in higher terms. So, we're going to go about the same thing that we did in finding a common denominator for the last one. We have to start with factoring. This trinomial can be factored. X plus 4 times x plus 1. If you were trying to eliminate the fractions, then you're going to now multiply every term by a common denominator. And we find that common denominator the same way we did on the last slide. What is it? X plus 4, x plus 1. And so I will multiply the numerator by x plus 4 and x plus 1. I will multiply this numerator.
Why you guys that one? That was
Well, I'm just writing it out.
no, I mean.
I know what you're saying. I'm just writing it all out so that everybody can see we're doing the same thing to every term. Every one of those terms has been multiplied by x plus 4 and x plus 1. Do you see that? Where? No, I'm not trying to get a common denominator. I'm trying to get rid of common denominators. It's just like that equation where I said let's multiply everything by 6. So I said times 6 times 6 times 6. Well, I'm saying times a lot of stuff, times a lot of stuff, times a lot of stuff. But I'm multiplying every term by the same thing. And what happens in this fraction? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all you're left with is x. And in the second fraction, you're left with that, which means you need to distribute, okay? And I wrote this backwards, so it might get a little confusing, but this minus sign should have been here with this 3. So you're distributing a negative 3. And on the other side of the equal sign, you can do this one of 2 ways. You can FOIL and then distribute 10, or you can distribute 10 to one of the terms and then FOIL.
So, why would it?
Taylor, I'm recording a lesson.
So,
Yes.
why is it minus 12?
Because I have to distribute negative 3. Negative times positive, negative times positive. Here I FOILed x plus 4 back together, which just gave me this trinomial I started with. And then I distribute 10. Okay?
So you wouldn't.
We want to put it all together because we are going to be dealing here with a quadratic equation where we have to set the whole thing equal to 0 and either factor or use the quadratic formula. All right, well this is negative 2x, right? Right here. If I'm going to bring negative 2x to the other side, it means that I'm going to add 2x to both sides
Or why is it?
because I'm trying to set it equal to 0.
Where'd you get the 2x?
This is negative 2x. I'm going to add 2x. 1x minus 3x is negative 2x. I'm going to bring my 12 over to the other side. And so I have 0 equals 10x squared plus 52x plus 52. Now, we're gonna stop there, but